Hello, anybody and anyone who is still here. Sorry that we were late, or I was late. Um, Ramona is not feeling well, so we've been trying to get her to bed, and I was sitting with her, and she is still up, so it is currently just me live streaming at the moment. So Biggs will be here in a little bit, but for now it is just me and only me. So I apologize for that. I'm also feeling a little under the weather, so I apologize for that as well. Um, I hope everyone is doing well this evening, and honestly, I think we should just get right into it, because we would like to finish this tonight. So I think the best thing to do is to just try to read. Oh my god, how long is this chapter? Oh dear lord. Okay. Let's just hop right into it, shall we? If we're all good with that, let's just read. Okay. Okay. Chapter 26. Dr. Seward's Diary. Again, I apologize if my voice doesn't sound great. I do not feel well, so bear with me. Cold read per usual. 29th October. Chapter 26. Dr. Seward's Diary. 29th October. This is written in the train from Varna to Galatz. Last night we all assembled a little before the time of sunset. Each of us had done his work as well as he could. So far as thought, and endeavour, and opportunity go, we are prepared for the whole of our journey, and for our work when we get to Galatz. When the usual time came round, Mrs. Harker prepared herself for a hypnotic effort, and after a longer and more serious effort on the part of Van Helsing than has been usually necessary, she sank into the trance. Usually she speaks on a hint, but this time the professor had to ask her questions, and to ask them pretty resolutely, before we could learn anything. At last her answer came. I can see nothing. We are still. There are no waves lapping, but only a steady swirl of water running softly running against the hawser. I can hear men's voices calling, near and far, and the roll and creak of oars in the rowlocks. A gun is fired somewhere. The echo of it seems far away. There is tramping of feet overhead, and ropes and chains are dragged along. What is this? There is a gleam of light. I can feel the air blowing upon me. Here she stopped. She had risen as if impulsively from where she lay on the sofa, and raised both her hands, palms upward, as if lifting a weight. Van Helsing and I looked at each other with understanding. Quincy raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at her intently, whilst Harker's hand instinctively closed round the hilt of his kukri. There was a long pause. We all knew that the time when she would speak was passing, but we felt that it was useless to say anything. Suddenly she sat up as she opened her eyes and said sweetly, Would anyone like a cup of tea? You must all be so tired. We could only make her happy, and so acquiesced. She bustled off to get tea. When she'd gone, Van Helsing said, You see, my friends, he is close to land. He has left his earth chest, but he has yet to get on shore. In the night he may lie hidden somewhere, but if he not be carried on shore, or if the ship do not touch it, he cannot achieve the land. In such case he can, if it be in the night, change his form, and can jump or fly on shore as he did at Whitby. But if the day come before he get on shore, then, unless he be carried, he cannot escape. And if he be carried, then the customs men may discover what the box contain. Thus, in fine, if he escape not on shore tonight or before dawn, there will be the whole day lost to him. We may then arrive in time, for if he escape not at night, we shall come on him in daytime, boxed up and at our mercy, for he dare not be his true self, awake and visible, lest he be discovered. The World Series, nice. I heard the Yankees are not doing so great this time around. I'm sorry, I look like garbage. I can tell my eyes are like pinpricks. Oh. There was no more to be said, so we waited in patience until the dawn, at which time we might learn more from Mrs. Harker. Early this morning we listened with breathless anxiety for her response in her trance. The hypnotic stage was even longer in coming than before, and when it came, the time remaining until full sunrise was so short that we began to despair. Van Helsing seemed to throw his whole soul into the effort. At last, in obedience to his will, she made reply. All is dark. I hear lapping water, level with me, and some creaking as of wood on wood. She paused, and then the red sun shot up. We must wait till tonight. And so it is that we are travelling towards Galatz in an agony of expectation. We are due to arrive between 2 and 3 in the morning, but already at Bucharest we are 3 hours late, so we cannot possibly get in till well after sun up. Thus we shall have 2 more hypnotic messages from Mrs. Harker. Either or both may possibly throw more light on what is happening. Later. Sunset has come and gone. Fortunately, it came at a time when there was no distraction, for it had occurred whilst we were at a station. We might not have secured the necessary calm and isolation. Mrs. Harker yielded to the hypnotic influence even less readily than this morning. I am in fear that her power of reading the Count's sensations may die away, just when we want it most. It seems to me that her imagination is beginning to work. While she has been in the trance hitherto, she has confined herself to the simplest of facts. If this goes on, it may ultimately mislead us. If I thought that the Count's power over her would die away equally with her power of knowledge, it would be a happy thought, but I'm afraid it may not do so. When she did speak, her words were enigmatical. Something is going out. I can feel it pass me like a cold wind. I can hear far off confused sounds, as of men talking in strange tongues, fierce falling water and the howling of wolves. She stopped, and a shudder ran through her, increasing in intensity for a few seconds, till, at the end, she shook as though in a palsy. She said no more, even in answer to the professor's imperative questioning. When she woke from the trance, she was cold and exhausted and languid, but her mind was all alert. She could not remember anything, but asked what she had said. When she was told, she pondered over it deeply for a long time, and in silence. 30th of October, 7 a.m. We are near Galatz now, and I may not have time to write later. Sunrise this morning was anxiously looked for by us all. Knowing of the increasing difficulty of procuring the hypnotic trance, Van Helsing began his passes earlier than usual. They produced no effect, however, until the regular time, when she yielded with a still greater difficulty, only a minute before the sun rose. The professor lost no time in his questioning. Her answer came with equal quickness. All is dark. I hear water swirling by, level with my ears, and the creaking of wood on wood. Cattle low far off. There is another sound, a queer one, like... She stopped and grew white and whiter still. Go on, speak, I command you, said Van Helsing in an agonized voice. At the same time there was despair in his eyes, for the rising sun was reddening even Mrs. Harker's pale face. She opened her eyes, and we all started as she said, sweetly and seemingly with the utmost concern, Oh, Professor, why ask me to do what you know I can't? I don't remember anything. Then, seeing the look of amazement on our faces, she said, turning from one to the other with a troubled look, What have I said? What have I done? I know nothing, only that I was lying here half asleep and heard you say, Go on, speak, I command you. It seems so funny to hear you order me about, as if I were a bad child. Oh, Madam Mina, he said sadly, it is proof, if proof be needed, of how I love and honor you, when a word for your good spoken more earnest than ever can seem even so strange, because is to order her whom I am proud to obey. The whistles are sounding. We are nearing Galatz. We are on fire with anxiety and eagerness. The rest of October passed pretty quickly. There were a lot of short entries as we went through, like the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. They were like short entries, but we kind of just blitzed through all those days. Mina Harker's journal. 30th October. Mr. Morris took me to the hotel where our rooms had been ordered by telegraph, he being the one who could be best spared, since he does not speak any foreign language. The forces were distributed as much as they had been at Varna, except that Lord Godalming went to the Vice-Consul, as his rank might serve as an immediate guarantee of some sort to the official, we being in extreme hurry. Jonathan and the 2 doctors went to the shipping agent to learn the particulars of the arrival of the Tsarina Catherine. Later. Lord Godalming has returned. The consul is away, and the vice-consul sick, so the routine work has been attended to by a clerk. He is very obliging and offered to do anything in his power. Jonathan Harker's journal. 30th October. At 9 o'clock, Dr. Van Helsing, Dr. Stewart, and I called on Messrs. Mackenzie and Steinkopf, the agents of the London firm of Hapgood. They'd received a wire from London in answer to Lord Godalming's telegraph request, asking us to show them any civility in their power. They were more than kind and courteous, and took us at once on board the Tsarina Catherine, which lay at anchor out in the river harbour. There we saw the captain, Donaldson by the name, who told us of his voyage. He said that in all his life he had never had so favourable a run. "Man," he said, "but it made us afeard, for we expected that we should have to pay for it with some rare piece of ill luck, so as to keep up the average. It's now canny run frae London to the Black Sea with a wind hind you, as though the devil himself were bowling on your sail for his ain purpose. And a time we could no speer a thing. Gin we were nigh a ship or a port or a headland, a fog fell on us and travelled with us, till when after it lifted and we looked out, the deil a thing could see. We ran by Gibraltar without being able to signal. Until we came to the Dardanelles, we had to wait to get our permit to pass. We never were with ale at all. At first I inclined to slack off sail and beat bout till the fog was lifted, but whiles I thought that if the devil was mine to get us in the Black Sea quick, he was like to do it whether we would or no. If we had a quick voyage, it would be no to our miscredit with the owners, or no hurt to our traffic, and the old man who had served his aim purpose would be decently grateful to us for no hindering him." This mixture of simplicity and cunning, of superstition and commercial reasoning, aroused Van Helsing, who said, "Mine friend, the devil is more clever than he is thought by some, and he know when he meet his match." Oh, for God's sake. The skipper was not displeased with the compliment and went on. Oh my goodness. These Cockney accents. Cockney sailor. When we got past the Bosphorus, the men began to grumble. Some of them, the Romanians, came and asked me to heave overboard a big box which had been put on board by a queer-looking old man just before we had started for London. I'd seen 'em spear at the fellow and put out their 12 fingers when they saw him, to guard against the evil eye. Man, but the superstition of foreigners is perfectly ridiculous. I sent 'em about their business pretty quick, but just as the fog cleared on us, I felt a wee bit as they didn't end something, though I couldn't say it was again with the big box. Well, on we went, and the fog didn't let up for 5 days. I just let the wind carry us, for if the devil wanted to get somewheres, well, he would fetch it up a reet. And if he didn't, well, we'd keep a sharp lookout anyhow. Sure, eunuch, we had a fair way in deep water all the time, and 2 days ago, when the morning came up through the fog, we found ourselves just in the river opposite Galant's. The Romanians were wild in wanting me right or wrong to take out the box and fling it in the river. I had to argue with 'em about it with a hand speak, and when the last of 'em rose off the deck with his head in his hand, I had convinced him that, evil eye or no evil eye, the property and the trust of my owners were better in my hands than in the river Danube. They had, mind you, take the box all on the dock already to fling it, and as it was marked Galant's via Varna, I thought I'd let it lie till we discharged in the port to get rid of it altogether. We didn't do much clearing that day and had to remain night at harbour. But in the morning, bright and early, an hour before sun-up, a man came aboard with an order, written to him from England, to receive a box marked for one Count Dracula. Sure enough, the matter was already in his hand. He had his papers arreght, and glad I was to be rid of the damn thing, for I was beginning myself to feel uneasy at it. If the devil did have any luggage aboard the ship, I'm thinking it was none other than the same. What is the name of the man who took it? Asked Van Helsing with restrained eagerness. I'll be telling you quick, he answered, and stepping down to his cabin produced a receipt signed Emanuel Hildesheim. Bergenstrasse 16 was the address. We found out that this was all the captain knew, so with thanks we came away. We found Hildesheim in his office, a Hebrew of rather the Adelphi theatre type, with a nose like a sheep and a fez. His arguments were pointed with specie, we doing the punctuation, and with a little bargaining he told us what he knew. This turned out to be simple but important. He had received a letter from Mr. Deville of London, telling him to receive, if possible, before sunrise, so as to avoid customs, a box which would arrive at Galatz at the Tsarina Catherine. This he was to give in charge to a certain Petrov Skinsky, who dealt with the Slovaks who traded down the river to the port. He'd been paid for his work by an English banknote, which had been duly cashed for gold at the Danube International Bank. When Skinsky had come to him, he had taken him to the ship and handed over the box, so as to save porterage. That was all he knew. We then sought for Skinsky, but were unable to find him. One of his neighbours, who did not seem to bear him any affection, said that he had gone away 2 days before. No one knew whither. This was corroborated by his landlord, who had received by messenger the key of the house together with the rent due in English money. This had been between 10 and 11 o'clock last night. We were at a standstill again. Oh, shocker. This whole chapter has been a whole lot of nothing. Whilst we were talking, one came running and breathlessly gasped out that the body of Skinsky had been found inside the wall of the churchyard of St. Peter, and that the throat had been torn open as if by some wild animal. Then those we had been speaking with ran off to see the horror, the women crying out, "This is the work of a Slovak!" We hurried away, lest we should have been in some way drawn into the affair, and so detained. As we came home, we could arrive at no definite conclusion. We were all convinced that the box was on its way, by water, to somewhere, but where that might be we would have to discover. With heavy hearts we came home to the hotel to Mina. When we met together, the first thing was to consult as to taking Mina again into our confidence. Things are getting desperate, and it is at least a chance, though a hazardous one. As a preliminary step, I was released from my promise to her. Mina Harker's journal. 30th of October, evening. They were so tired and worn out and dispirited that there was nothing to be done till they'd had some rest, so I asked them all to lie down for half an hour whilst I should enter everything up to the moment. I feel so grateful to the man who invented the traveller's typewriter, and to Mr. Morris for getting this one for me. I should have felt quite astray doing the work if I'd had to write with a pen. It is all done. Poor dear Jonathan, what he must have suffered, what he must be suffering now. He lies on the sofa hardly seeming to breathe, and his whole body seems in collapse. His brows are knit, his face is drawn with pain. Poor fellow, maybe he is thinking, and I can see his face all wrinkled up with the concentration of his thoughts. If I could only help at all. I shall do what I can. I have asked Dr. Van Helsing, and he's got me all the papers that I have not yet seen. While they are resting, I shall go over all carefully. Perhaps I may arrive at some conclusion. I shall try to follow the professor's example, and think without prejudice on the facts before me. I do believe that under God's providence I have made a discovery. I shall get the maps and look over them. I am more than ever sure that I am right. My new conclusion is ready, so I shall get our party together and read it. they can judge it. It is well to be accurate. Every minute is precious. Mina Harker's memorandum, entered in her journal. Ground of inquiry. Count Dracula's problem is to get back to his own place. A. He must be brought back by someone. This is evident, for had he power to move himself as he wished, he would go either as man or wolf or bat or in some other way. He evidently fears discovery or interference in the state of helplessness in which he must be, confined as he is between dawn and sunset in his wooden box. B. How is he to be taken? Here is a process of exclusions which may help us. By road, by rail, by water. Number 1. By road. There are endless difficulties, especially in leaving the city. X. There are people, and people are curious and investigate. A hint, a surmise, a doubt as to what might be in the box would destroy him. Y. There are or there may be customs and Ostroi officers to pass. Z. His pursuers might follow. This is his highest fear, and in order to prevent his being betrayed, he has repelled, so far as he can, even his victim, me. 2. By rail. There is no one in charge of the box. It would have to take its chance of being delayed, and delay would be fatal, with enemies on the track. True, he might escape at night, but what would be if left in a strange place with no refuge he could fly to? This is not what he intends, and he does not mean to risk it. 3. By water. Here is the safest way in one respect, but with most danger in another. On the water he is powerless except at night, even when he can only summon fog and storm and snow and his wolves. But where he wrecked, the living water would engulf him, helpless, and he would indeed be lost. He could have the vessel drive to land, but if it were unfriendly land, wherein he was not free to move, his position would still be desperate. We know from the record that he was on the water, so what we have to do is ascertain what water. The first thing is to realize exactly what he has done as yet. We may then get a light on what his later task is to be. Firstly, we must differentiate between what he did in London as a part of his general plan of action, when he was pressed for moments and had to arrange as best he could. Secondly, we must see, as well as we can surmise it from the facts we know of, what he has done here. As to the first, he evidently intended to arrive at Galatz and sent invoice to Varna to deceive us lest we should ascertain his means of exit from England. His immediate and sole purpose then was to escape. The proof of this is the letter of instruction sent to Emanuel Hildesheim to clear and take away the box before sunrise. There is also the instruction to Petrov Skinsky. These we must only guess at, but there must have been some letter or message, since Skinsky came to Hildesheim. That so far his plans were successful we know. The Tsarina Catherine made a phenomenally quick journey, so much so that Captain Donaldson's suspicions were aroused, but his superstition united with his canniness played the Count's game for him, and he ran with his favouring wind through fogs and all till he brought up blindfold at Galatz. That the Count's arrangements were well made has been proved. Hildesheim cleared the box, took it off and gave it to Skinsky. Skinsky took it, and here we lose the trail. We only know that the box is somewhere on the water moving along. The customs and the Ostroi, if there be any, have been avoided. Now we come to what the Count must have done after his arrival, on land, at Galatz. The box was given to Skinsky before sunrise. At sunrise the Count would appear in his own form. Here we ask why Skinsky was chosen at all to aid in the work. In my husband's diary, Skinsky is mentioned as dealing with the Slovaks who trade down the river to the port, and the man's remark, that the murder was the work of a Slovak, showed the general feelings against his class. The Count wanted isolation. My surmise is this, that in London the Count decided to get back to his castle by water as the most safe and secret way. He was brought from the castle by the Zhgani, and probably they delivered their cargo to Slovaks who took the boxes to Varna, for there they were shipped to London. Thus the Count had knowledge of the persons who could arrange this service. When the box was on land, before sunrise or after sunset, he came out from his box, met Skinsky and instructed him as to what to do as to arranging the carriage of the box up some river. When this was done, and he knew all was done in train, he blotted out his traces, as he thought, by murdering his agent. I have examined the map and found that the river most suitable for the Slovaks to have ascended it as either the Pruth or the Sereth. I read in the typescript that in my trance I heard cows low, and water swirling level with my ears and the creaking of wood. The Count in his box, then, was on a river in an open boat, propelled probably either by oars or poles, for the banks are near and it is working against stream. There would be no such sound if floating downstream. For of course it may not be either the Sareth or the Pruth, but we may possibly investigate further. Now of these two, the Pruth is the more easily navigated, but the Sareth is at Fundu, joined by the Bistritza, which runs up round the Borgo Pass. The loop makes it manifestly as close to Dracula's castle as he can be got by water. Mina Harker's journal continued. When I had done reading, Jonathan took me in his arms and kissed me. The others kept shaking me by both hands, and Dr. Van Helsing said, "Oh, our dear Madam Mina is once more our teacher. Her eyes have been where we were blinded. Now we are on the track once again, and this time we may succeed. Our enemy is at his most helpless, and if we can come on him by day under water, our task will be over. He has a start, but he is powerless to hasten, as he may not leave his box, lest those who carry him may suspect. For them to suspect would be to prompt him to throw him into stream where he perish. This he knows and will not. Now, men, to our council of war, for here and now we must plan what each and all shall do." "I shall get a steam launch and follow him," said Lord Godalming. "And our horses to follow on the bank, lest by chance he land," said Mr. Morris. "Oh, good," said the Professor. "Both good, but neither must go alone. There must be force to overcome force if need be. The Slovak is strong and rough, and he carries rude arms." All the men smiled, for amongst them they carried a small arsenal. Said Mr. Morris, "I've brought some Winchesters. They are pretty handy in a crowd, and there may be wolves. The Count, if you remember, took some other precautions. He made some requisitions on others that Mrs. Harker could not quite hear or understand. We must be ready at all points." Dr. Seward said, "I think I'd better go with Quincy. We've been accustomed to hunt together, and we two, well armed, will be a match for whatever may come along. You must not go alone, Art. It may be necessary to fight the Slovaks, and a chance thrust, for I don't suppose these fellows carry guns, would undo all our plans. There must be no chances this time. We shall not rest until the Count's head and body have been separated, and we are sure that he cannot reincarnate." He looked at Jonathan as he spoke, and Jonathan looked at me. I could see that the poor dear was torn about in his mind. Of course he wanted to be with me, but then the boat service would most likely be the one which would destroy the vampire. Why did I hesitate to write the word? He was silent a while, and during his silence Van Helsing spoke. For 50,000 pages. "Friend Jonathan, this is to you for twice reasons. First, because you are young and brave and can fight, and all energies may be needed at last. And again, it is your right to destroy him, that which wrought such woe to you and yours. Be not afraid for Madam Mina. She will be my care, if I may. I am old. My legs are not so quick to run at once, and I am not used to ride so long or to pursue as need be, or to fight with lethal weapons. But I can be of other service. I can fight in other way, and I can die, if need be, as well as younger men. Now let me say that I would is this. While you, my Lord Godalming, and friend Jonathan go in your swift little steamboat up the river, and whilst John and Quincy guard the bank where perchance he might be landed, I will take Madam Mina right into the heart of the enemy's country, whilst the old fox is tied in his box, floating under running stream, whence he cannot escape to land, where he dares not raise the lid of his coffin box, lest the Slovak carriers should in fear leave him to perish. We shall go in the track where Jonathan went, from Bistritz over the Borgo, and find our way to the castle of Dracula. Here Madam Mina's hypnotic power will surely help, and we shall find our way, all dark and unknown otherwise, after the first sunrise when we are near that fateful place. There is much to be done, and other places to be made sanctify, so that the nest of vipers be obliterated." Here Jonathan interrupted him hotly. "Do you mean to say, Professor Van Helsing, that you would bring Mina, in her sad case and tainted as she is with that devil's illness, right into the jaws of his death trap? Not for the world, not for heaven or hell." He became almost speechless for a moment, and then went on. "Do you know what that place is? Have you seen that awful den of hellish infamy, with the very moonlight alive with grisly shapes, and every speck of dust that whirls in the wind a devouring monster in embryo? Have you felt the vampire's lips upon your throat?" Here he turned to me, and his eyes lit on my forehead. He threw up his arms with a cry. "Oh, my God, what have we done to this terror upon—" Sorry, everybody. "Oh, my God, what have we done to have this terror upon us?" And he sank down on the sofa in a collapse of misery. The professor's voice, as he spoke in clear, sweet tones, which seemed to vibrate in the air, calmed us all. "Oh, my friend, it is because I would save Madam Mina from that awful place that I would go. God forbid that I would take her into that place. There is work, wild work to be done there, that her eyes may not see. We men here, all save Jonathan, have seen with our own eyes what is to be done before the place can be purified. Remember that we are in terrible straits. If the Count escape us this time, and he is strong and subtle and cunning, he may choose to sleep him for a century, and then in time our dear one—" He took my hand. "Would come to him to keep him company, and would be as those others that you, Jonathan, saw. You have told us of their gloating lips. You heard their ribald laugh as they clutched the moving bag that the Count threw to them. You shudder, and well may it be. Forgive me that I make you so much pain, but it is necessary. My friend, it is not a dire need for the which I am giving, possibly my life. If it were that anyone went into that place to stay, it is I who would have to go to keep them company." "Do as you will," said Jonathan, with a sob that shook him all over. "We are in the hands of God." Later. Oh, it did me good to see the way these brave men worked. How can women help loving men when they are so earnest and so true and so brave? Blech. And too, it made me think of the wonderful power of money. What can it not do when it is properly applied, and what might it do when basely used? I feel so thankful that Lord Godalming is rich, and that both he and Mr. Morris, who also has plenty of money, are willing to spend it so freely. For if they did not, our little expedition could not start, either so promptly or so well equipped, as it will within another hour. It is not 3 hours since it was arranged what part each of us has to do, and now Lord Godalming and Jonathan have a lovely steam launch, with steam up ready to start at a moment's notice. Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris have 6 good horses, well appointed. We have all the maps and appliances of various kind that can be had. Professor Van Helsing and I are to leave by the 11:40 train tonight to Vericeti, where we are to get a carriage to drive to the Borgo Pass. We are bringing a good deal of ready money, as we are to buy a carriage and horses. We shall drive ourselves, for we know no one whom we can trust in the matter. The professor knows something of a great many languages, so we shall get on all right. We have all got arms, even me, a large bore revolver. Jonathan would not be happy unless I was armed like the rest. Alas, I cannot carry one arm the way that the rest do. The scar on my forehead forbids that. Dear Dr. Van Helsing comforts me by telling me that I am fully armed, as there may be wolves. The weather is getting colder every hour, and there are snow flurries which come and go as warnings. Later. It took all my courage to say goodbye to my darling. We may never meet again. Courage, Mina. The professor is looking at you keenly. His look is a warning. There must be no tears now, unless it may be that God will let them fall in gladness. Jonathan Harker's Journal. October 30th, night. I am writing this in the light from the furnace door of the steam launch. Lord Godalming is firing up. He is an experienced hand at the work, as he has had for years a launch of his own on the Thames and another on the Norfolk Broads. Regarding our plans, we finally decided that Mina's guess was correct, and that if any waterway was chosen for the Count's escape back to his castle, the Sareth and then the Bistritza at its injunction would be the one. We took it, that somewhere about the 47th degree north latitude would be the place chosen for the crossing the country between the river and the Carpathians. We have no fear in running at good speed up the river at night. There is plenty of water, and the banks are wide enough apart to make steaming, even in the dark, easy enough. Lord Godalming tells me to sleep for a while, as it is enough for the present for one to be on watch. But I cannot sleep. How can I, with the terrible danger hanging over my darling, and her going out into that awful place? My only comfort is that we are in the hands of God. Only for that faith would it be easier to die than to live, and be quit of all the trouble. Mr. Morris and Dr. Seward are off on their long ride before we started. They are to keep up the right bank, far enough off to get on higher lands where they can see a good stretch of river and avoid the following of its curves. They have, for the first stages, 2 men to ride and lead their spare horses, 4 in all, so as not to excite curiosity. When they dismiss the men, which shall be shortly, they shall themselves look after the horses. It may be necessary for us to join forces. If so, they can mount our whole party. One of the saddles has a movable horn, and can easily be adapted for Mina if required. It is a wild adventure we are on. Here, as we are rushing along through the darkness, with the cold from the river seeming to rise up and strike us, with all the mysterious voices of the night around us, it all comes home. We seem to be drifting into unknown places and unknown ways, into a whole world of dark and dreadful things. Godalming is shutting the furnace door. 31st of October. Still hurrying along. The day has come and Godalming is sleeping. I am on watch. The morning is bitterly cold. The furnace heat is grateful, though we have heavy fur coats. As yet we have only passed a few open boats, but none of them had on board any box or package of anything like the size of the one we seek. The men were scared every time we turned our electric lamp on them, and fell on their knees and prayed. 1st of October, evening. No news all day. We have found nothing of the kind we seek. We have now passed into Bistritza, and if we are working wrong in our surmise, our chance is gone. We have overhauled every boat, big and little. Early this morning, one crew took us for a government boat and treated us accordingly. We saw in this a way of smoothing matters, so at Fundu, where the Bistritza runs into Sareth, we got a Romanian flag which we now fly conspicuously. With every boat we have overhauled since then, this trick has succeeded. We have had every deference shown to us, and not once any objection to what we chose to ask or to do. Some of the Slovaks tell us that a big boat passed them, going at more than usual speed, as she had a double crew on board. This was before we came to Fundu, so they could not tell us whether the boat turned into the Bistritza or continued up the Sareth. At Fundu we could not hear any boat, so she must have passed there in the night. I'm feeling very sleepy. The cold is perhaps beginning to tell on me, and nature must have rest some time. Godalming insists that he shall keep the first watch. God bless him for all his goodness to poor dear Mina and me. November 2nd, morning. It is broad daylight. That good fellow would not wake me. He says it would have been a sin to, for I slept peacefully and was forgetting my trouble. It seems brutally selfish to me to have slept so long and let him watch all night, but he was quite right. I am a new man this morning, and as I sit here and watch him sleeping, I can do all that is necessary, both as to minding the engine, steering, and keeping watch. I can feel that my strength and energy are coming back to me. I wonder where Mina is now, and Van Helsing. They should have got to Vericetti about noon on Wednesday. It would take them some time to get the carriage and the horses, so if they had started and travelled hard, they would now be at the Borgo Pass. God guide and help them. I am afraid to think that what may happen. If only we could go faster. but we can't. The engines are throbbing and doing their utmost. I wonder how Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris are getting on. There seem to be endless streams running down the mountains into the river, but as none of them are very large, at present at all events, though they are terrible doubtless in winter and when the snow melts, the horsemen may have not met much obstruction. I hope that before we get to Strasbourg we may see them, for if by that time we have not overtaken the Count, it may be necessary to take counsel together what to do next. Dr. Seward's diary. 2nd of November. 3 days on the road. No news and no time to write if there had been, for every moment is precious. We have had only the rest needful for the horses, but we are both bearing it wonderfully. Those adventurous days of ours are turning up useful. We must push on. We shall never feel happy till we get the launch in sight again. 3rd November. We heard at Fundu that the launch had gone up the Bistritza. I wish it wasn't so cold. There are signs of snow coming, and if it falls heavy it will stop us. In such case we must get a sledge and go on, Russian fashion. 4th of November. Today we heard of the launch having been detained by an accident when trying to force a way up the rapids. The Slovak boats get up all right by aid of a rope and steering with knowledge. Some went up only a few hours before. Godalming is an amateur fitter himself, and evidently it was he who put the launch in trim again. Finally, they got up the rapids all right with local help, and are off the chase afresh. I fear that the boat is not any better for the accident. The peasantry tell us that after she got upon smooth water again, she kept stopping every now and again so long as she was in sight. We must push on harder than ever. Our help may be wanted soon. Mina Harker's journal. 31st October. Arrived at Vericeti at noon. The professor tells me that this morning at dawn he could hardly hypnotize me at all, and that all I could say was dark and quiet. He is off now buying a carriage and horses. He says that he will later on try to buy additional horses so that he may be able to change them on the way. We have something more than 70 miles before us. The country is lovely and most interesting. If only we were under different conditions, how delightful it would be to see it all. If Jonathan and I were driving through it alone, what a pleasure it would be, to stop and see people, and learn something of their life, and to fill our minds and memories with all the colour and picturesqueness of the whole wild, beautiful country, and the quaint people. But alas! Later. Dr. Van Helsing has returned. He's got the carriage and horses. We are to have some dinner and to start in an hour. The landlady is putting up a huge basket of provisions. It seems enough for a company of soldiers. The professor encourages her and whispers to me that it may be a week before we can get any good food again. He's been shopping too, and has sent home such a wonderful lot of fur coats and wraps and all sorts of warm things. There will not be any chance of our getting cold. We shall soon be off. I am afraid to think what may happen to us. We are truly in the hands of God. He alone knows what may be, and I pray him, with all the strength of my sad and humble soul, that he will watch over my beloved husband, that whatever may happen, Jonathan may know that I loved him and honoured him more than I can say, and that my latest and truest thought will always be for him.
Excellent. Oh, so what'd I miss?
Honestly, nothing.
No.
Oh, it was really hard to hypnotize Mina today. It was even harder to hypnotize Mina today. It was even harder and harder to hypnotize Mina today.
Oh, no.
Oh my god, it was the hardest it's ever been. It was literally like 5 times they talked about it.
Can vampires not be hypnotized or something?
It's because...
Does that mean I'm a vampire?
It's because her connection to the Count is like growing weaker and weaker.
Oh.
He's like using occlumency against her big time.
Oh, gotcha.
Like the best way I can describe it.
And then, what? I came back and Mina was talking about like cartography, basically. She a cartography fiend as well?
So they were like talking about, based on her hypnotism, where the Count is, and they were like, how is he going to get to his castle? What's the best route to his castle? And none of them could figure it out. So Mina was like, I'm going to take all the notes and look at them and think about it.
Because I have a woman's brain that works like a man's brain, so I can figure it out.
And she basically figured it out, yeah.
Okay, well.
And she was like, he's going to go up this river or this river in a boat to get to his castle.
Well, I hope in a boat.
And
a lot of ways to go up a river. He was going to swim. You know, since Mina and Van Helsing are going the route that Jonathan went, I wonder if that blue flame is going to come back. Is Mina and Van Helsing going to find it and find the treasure that's hidden there? Or was that just Chekhov's gun that's going to be left in the first act?
I don't know.
I feel like it's got to be something.
But Dr. Seward and Morris went by horse alongside the river. Jonathan and Arthur are going by steamboat. And Van Helsing and Mina are just like going straight to the castle on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, they talked about that freaking box. I don't know how. Like they talked about it so much. I was literally, I don't know if it's because I don't feel good.
Getting a cough.
Yeah, tell me about it. Or what? But they talked about that stupid box for forever.
What, Dracula's box? Coffin?
Oh my god, yeah.
Well, my theory is that Mina and Van Helsing are going to come across that blue flame, find the treasure that's hidden under it, and it's going to be something that is precious to Dracula, and they're going to hold that ransom. Or maybe, ooh, you know what? Is that his last, like, what was it? The Horcruxes? I can't think of the Horcrux thingies.
Which one?
No, he came back because he had more. I wonder if that's what's under the blue flame.
No, it's treasure. Dracula said it's treasure.
Yeah, but that would be treasure to Dracula or anyone who, wanted to stop Dracula.
Dan says, the sodium shirt.
Yes, of course. Always the sodium. Faulty Batman.
Maybe. I don't know.
I also don't have my glasses, and I left it in Ramona's room, and I don't dare go in there right now because she just fell asleep, so.
I am going to take some honey right before bed for sure. I mean, we only have one more chapter left, and I honestly don't know if I can read it right now.
No.
I don't know.
I mean, it's up to you. Power through and finish it. That is a long one. That's a thick wall of text.
It's really long. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I don't know. I also don't know if maybe. Yeah. Not to be like a Debbie Downer. I said we were going to finish it tonight, but like I started reading this, and as I was reading, my throat just started hurting worse and worse, and I started to cough. So I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I should read it tonight, or if whoa, Galaxy with his fancy Trader Joe's. Ooh. We don't got no Trader Joe's around here, son. Just kidding. I'm not hating. Never been there. I just know that Hawaii is really upset that Trader Joe's left.
Trader Joe's left Hawaii?
Uh-huh.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, we can save it for tomorrow, but we can finish our discussion of this chapter.
Okay.
I just won't go out tomorrow, which I mean, if I'm not feeling too hot, I shouldn't do anyway.
No, probably not a good idea.
So we'll finish the book tomorrow, but in the meantime,
Well, I hope it's just a tickle and you're not really getting sick, because that means she got sick, then you get sick,
and
I'm
then you're
be
gonna
sick
get
on Halloween.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, let's discuss this. I'll eat some honey and go to bed, and hopefully not die tomorrow during the day. But
So it seems like your breakdown of this chapter is it wasn't good.
it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. I don't know. It was very much this is what we're gonna do before the action.
Which would be fine. This is really
That was loud. Yes,
That
that
was,
was very loud.
which would be fine, but like the last two chapters were that as well. You know, I thought this chapter was going to be they were going to catch up to Dracula. And then the last one was, you know, okay, maybe he like has Mina now and now it's the final showdown and then
Right, and maybe the chapter ends with like, Dracula has taken Mina. Dear God, have mercy, dear sweet God.
not Mina, that lovely, wonderful,
Not poor
beautiful woman.
Madam Mina, no.
The smartest, most perfect person in the world.
Yeah. That's what this chapter was very much, in a way, kind of like the last chapter of like, we're planning to catch up to him in his home. We're still planning to catch up to him in his home. Which way did he go?
Did Bram Stoker, like, who hurt him? Was there, like, did he get rejected by some lady and then he, in turn, like, based Mina off of her or something to get his feelings out? Like, he's John Harker.
The running theory, well, I don't even know if it's a theory. I think this is, like, it's been proven. He was a closeted gay dude.
Oh, maybe he's Mina.
He was a closeted gay dude. He was like married and had kids and stuff, but like I guess like he was gay and had some like wicked big crushes on some dudes in his time.
Maybe that's why he was so obsessed with like the man and the woman brain thing.
He
'Cause, you know, in this day and this time,
I don't remember what I was gonna say. I don't remember what I was gonna say. I'm sorry.
he
Oh yeah, he was an Irishman living in Victorian England at the time. You know, like you can't be gay.
no.
But
But that would make sense. The whole thing about like men and women's brain, that sort of thing.
yeah. And the masculine manly men and the gender roles and all that stuff.
You know, now that you say that, like the way he writes like Quincy, I think I have a thing for cowboys.
Maybe he did.
I think so.
It's possible.
He could just go to America.
There was
No one in England would have to know.
I saw like some of Bram Stoker's, like someone posted like his original notes like on the novel. And there's like just a little section of like notes that he'd written or whatever he'd written with a big arrow pointing into it, like a big arrow pointing here, and it just wrote, and then underneath he wrote, "Bring in the Texan."
Got a vampire Texan.
That's your answer. It's your solution. I also just love in this chapter that Mina is just like, I am so happy that everyone's rich. Good.
I know. Also, you gotta read chat. I'm too blind.
There's nothing
Glasses.
happening in the chat right now. They Dan said he didn't like Trader Joe's. And that Halloween is a bad day for a kid to be sick. And then Galaxy countered with, "That's fair, but the Trader Joe's selection is small but extremely high quality." And then Dan said, "It's
I've
like
heard
getting
great
to the
things about
Forbidden
Trader Joe's.
Forest, it's like getting to the Forbidden Forest before going past the dog and to the man with two faces."
Also, speaking of Bram Stoker's notes, like when they were talking about like, okay, let's make a plan. Like, okay, so first we need to catch up to Dracula. We'll do this and that. It sounded like some of Bram Stoker's notes like got put into the story by accident. It kind of sounded like an outline for the whole story. Like he wrote it and then was going to go back and change it and then never did and was like, yeah, that was part of it.
That's how it felt like reading this chapter. It was just like, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. And I'm like, okay. But it's also just like, this is a repeat of the same thing we've done every few chapters.
Yeah, yeah.
The
At
entire
first it
book.
was, we're going to plan out what to do in Seward's asylum, and then we're going to plan out what to do on the boat, and then we're going to plan out what to do in the new country.
Yep.
And then we're going to plan out while we're on the other boat and everyone else is going by land.
Yeah. And I swear, every chapter, Van Helsing says, "And don't falter, but have faith, for this work that we do is worthy. Oh, what terrible work we have before us."
He usually does say that right after he says what an amazing woman Mina is.
Yeah, he could write a Van Helsing speech in like 2 seconds. Mention how awesome Mina is. Talk about how the work is so heavy and there's so much of it to be done, but that it is God's work and we are all lucky and worthy to be doing it. And how much better the world will be without the vampire, and our lives are worth sacrificing that for.
Bonus points for including hinting that he knows something that everyone doesn't, but won't reveal it and must riddle it so that they can figure it out themselves.
Extra more bonus points if you can use the word man brain.
Has to be used alongside woman's brain, though.
In correlation to discussion about Mina Harker.
Yeah, that's Van Helsing's character. It's like all of his lines.
Pretty much it. Sprinkle in some bad grammar and you're all set.
Bad grammar. Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, when I say that stuff, like, that's exactly what the text says. That's not me being like bad accent. Like, no, he says, like, yes, to all the peoples. It says to all the peoples.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm reading exactly
I
what
thought
it
you were
says.
just writing it. Yeah.
No.
All right.
So when he says something that sounds kind of funky, that's because that's how it is written in the text.
Yeah. You gonna make it?
I don't know. But I also...
I mean, that's pretty much the chapter, though.
That is pretty much the chapter. I was really hoping I'd have the energy to do the second one, but I honestly don't know if I'm going to be able to make it without coughing 1,000 times.
It happens.
It does happen. I feel terrible.
Feel known as cough drops. Really want to make it through.
No, I don't want to read the last chapter badly. It's the end.
Fair enough.
I have to do it justice. It's the end.
I swear to God, if it's like 90% just planning, and then it's
And
like
then at the and
two sentences. We saw Dracula. Jonathan leaped off the balcony and stabbed him in the heart.
the end.
The end.
You'd be mad if it's not Jonathan that kills him.
Nah.
Who do you want to kill him?
I don't know if there's anyone I want to kill him.
What would feel the best to you?
I don't know. I feel like there's a few different ways it could go. I mean, Quincy just coming out of nowhere with a 6-shooter and putting a silver bullet through his heart.
Would be great.
Adios, amigo.
Okay.
You sucked your last neck.
You've drained your last vein, you son of a bitch. Okay.
Drain this bat brain. So many great lines. Like, it would be awesome.
This needs to be a Quincy Morris movie where he kills Dracula. That's it.
That would be
Quincy
really
Morris
good.
should be the main character. Problem solved. Is that all you got?
Do a spinoff, like just American Vampire. And it's Quincy Morris just hunting vampires in the Wild West.
Quincy Morris specifically.
That would be a great show. Yeah. It could be, Quincy Morris, if he survives this, goes back to the U.S. and like vampires are seeking revenge on him. Or they like follow him back because they found out about this big land where they don't have vampires and they can flourish over there. So Quincy, I think it would be pretty awesome if Jonathan just, like eagle dives on him and just for me now.
All right.
And trying to think what would be the better way to go with this one. I think Mina would be the appropriate one.
Oh, Mina kills him?
Yeah, Mina would be the appropriate one.
That would be cool. All right. Those are your theories?
Mm-hmm.
Okie dokie. Those are the theories.
Well, I don't really think Quincy's going to be the one to do it. Not necessarily theories, just like endings I would want.
You, of all the endings, you want Quincy to do it?
Because it's the least likely to happen.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, alrighty then. I'm not gonna give away any spoilers. What happens? Per usual.
So are you saying there's a chance Quincy does that?
I mean, there's a 1 in 6. There's a 1 in 6 chance he does it.
I'll take it. Those are good odds.
Those are good odds. All right. Anyone else have any thoughts about the chapter before we
give her a prosthetic neck with poison blood? Doesn't even have to be poison blood, just filled with like garlic juice, garlic puree.
Garlic puree or Dracula? That would be very painful, I think.
For a good reason.
That's true. He's not a very nice dude. Fair enough. Any other thoughts?
No, that's about it.
All right. Well, I am sorry, everyone. That was a very short stream. I am sorry that I was so late. It was kind of a discombobulated stream.
Things happen.
Yeah, that's true. Things happen. We apologize that things happened. And we will finish the book tomorrow. We will let you know around what time. And we will see you all tomorrow to actually finish Dracula. We tried tonight, but we will actually finish Dracula tomorrow.
Tomorrow, if we have to, I'll read it. We're finishing it. God damn it. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank